The feature story in Metropolis Magazine this week is titled Records of the Rising Sun by C.B. Liddell.
An examination of Japan's world beaters yields a superlative understanding of the country. We have Merpod, I say aficionado, Colin Liddell. Hey, Colin.
Hi, Jordan.
Welcome back to the Merpod.
It's nice to be here.
We were reading your article about records that people are breaking here in Japan. You cited some examples being the longest sushi roll, the longest wooden toy train track, the longest pearl necklace. There are pictures in the pages of your feature story.
Yes.
What inspired this story?
Well, I mean, I've always been interested in the Guinness Book of Records from an early age, and I just thought that every country tends to be good at different things. And I thought, let's apply this to Japan and see what comes up.
You wrote about some of the strange records that have been broken in many different categories here, such as in the natural world, in the overcrowding and teamwork world, business world. Let's start with the natural world. You mentioned earthquakes. Yes.
So that was a kind of good starting point because, to sort of deal with the issue of what a country is, you start with where it is and the environment that created it. And so I thought, Japan's environment has had a big role in creating the kind of country it is.
Now, tell us about the records that were broken with earthquakes.
Well, yeah, I think the great Kanto earthquake of 1923, that's in the record book, has been the most destructive in terms of buildings destroyed and lives lost. Mm-hmm. There are other earthquakes, I believe in China, where more people were killed, mm-hmm. but that's the official record holder for the most destruction. And a large part of that was because immediately after the earthquake, most of the city caught fire.
Oh, yeah. And you wrote about record-breaking financial costs during the Shin earthquake.
Yes. So that of course reflects the fact that that earthquake happened here in the world's second major economy and not somewhere in the third world. If that, an equally damaging earthquake happened in the third world, the financial costs would have been much less simply because of it wasn't in Kobe.
Now, speaking of natural records, you also wrote about some of the other, I guess, the good things, the good natural records that are broken here in Japan.
Yeah. Japan's very much a kind of onsen country, and that's the good side of all that volcanic activity. Another good side is, because Japan's very volcanic, that creates a lot of nutrients in the soil and in the water, makes it a kind of rich farming and fishing country, which leads on to the dense population.
Talk about those crabs, those record-breaking crabs here in Japan.
Yeah, up in Hokkaido, they have these enormous crabs. I think some of them are, I don't have the figures in front of me, but some of them are like over 10 feet from tip to tip, with measuring the legs, of course.
You're talking about 10-foot crabs, right?
Yeah, well, that's leg to leg. The legs are long, you see. That's what accounts for most of the length. The actual bodies are a lot smaller.
Hey, CB, anyone who's come and visited Japan, or at least Tokyo, knows that crowds are a big part of the life here. Can you tell us some of the statistics about crowds or teamwork?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just like to say to all your listeners out there in Tokyo, they're all technically speaking in the Guinness Book of Records, because Tokyo and the Tokyo conurbation, including parts of Chiba, Saitama, and Kanagawa, that's the biggest urban agglomeration in the world.
As we call it here, the world's largest metropolis.
Yep, that's it. That has been officially recognized by the Guinness Book of Records.
Let's move on to big business and a captive market that you wrote about. You said that we have the world's biggest bank?
Yes. There's actually several banks that have joined together over the shaky economic years of the last couple of decades.
And the world's biggest motorcycle company?
Yep, that's here. I think it's Honda.
The biggest travel agency?
Yeah, JTB.
The longest drawing in the world? Can you explain that?
Yeah. Just the Pentel company, which is a Japanese company. They thought it might be good for their business profile if they could get the record for something connected with pens. So they came up with the longest drawing.
What about the longest gold bar?
The largest gold bar.
Or the largest gold bar.
Yeah, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I think that's about 250 kilograms of gold. So it must be very difficult to steal.
And what about the longest running number one hit record?
Not the longest running number one, but the artists with the most consecutive number ones. You might have heard of the Kinky Kids.
Sure.
And well, apparently they've had 25 consecutive number one singles, which is a record. And I mean, to me, that doesn't suggest that their music is that great, because I have listened to it. The only conclusion to draw from that is that there is something of a captive market, and the market is they're able to kind of manipulate and control the markets a lot better than in some Western countries.
Yeah, you seem to hint about this as being the mechanism that allows for so many records to be broken here in Japan, especially on the business front.
Yes, yes.
Let's move on to miniaturization and robotics. That was also touched upon by the editor Bo Miller.
Uh-huh.
What can you tell us about the world's smallest camcorder, the smallest thermometer, the smallest external hand drive, the fastest maglev train, and the world's most incredible toilet?
Yes, well, the toilet is not really a case of miniaturization, but because of the overcrowding and because Japan's had to develop a very intense business culture, a lot of these corporations they do sort of fuel a lot scientific research. And in Japan's case, a lot of that does go into miniaturization because, first of all, miniaturization makes things cheaper to export because it cuts down transport costs, for example.
C.B. Liddell, we are running a little bit short on time here, Colin. You mentioned and you wrote about the fact that Japan holds many other records in the area of work and play, with such things as the longest working career, the most variety shows hosted by the same guy, the most hours of live TV in 1 week, the oldest man living, the oldest man ever, the oldest hit recording artist, Kin-san and Jin-san. Any other records you care to mention that have been broken? What about this guy who has the world's record for eating the most hot dogs, the Nathan's guy?
Yeah, I did think about looking into that, but I wasn't able to find a space for him in the article, unfortunately. There's a lot of weird and interesting records I did have to leave out. So that because there's I think there's about 387 world records held by groups of Japanese or Japanese individuals.
CB, throughout all your research, what were some of the facts that stood out? What were some of your favorites?
Well, obviously, the ones that I tended to go for were the ones that I could use in my article to sort of paint a picture of the country. But aside from that, I was also attracted to just the weird ones. So
is there one that really sticks out for you?
Well, I couldn't really find a space for it in the article, but it was the most scent-dependent robberies.
Scent-dependent robberies. Please explain.
Well, I'm just going through my database here. Oh, here it is. Yes. Seiichi Shirota, Japan, has been linked to over 200 robberies worth 60 million yen because of his nose for crime. And basically this guy, he selected his victims by smelling the homes of women to identify if their perfume scent revealed them to be rich and likely to own luxury goods.
Wow!
So the most scent-dependent robberies, that's here in Japan.
That's very clever, too. All right, C.B. Liddell, thank you for a fascinating feature story in this week's Metropolis Magazine.
Glad you liked it.